Lights,
Hello,
camera,
everybody,
action.
and welcome back to the second part of Pride and Prejudice. I have followed in the footsteps of the great Dr. House and have taken a fuckload of Vicodin.
I, in the meantime, am drunk.
Yeah, he went off and had some. We took like a 3-hour break where we did our own things to prepare for the rest. So,
Turns out with enough rum, I like anything. Except this book still is just kind of fucking annoying me. I'm not sure why.
yeah, he is extremely accepting of everything whenever he's drunk except for the book. Go figure.
Jane is such a bitch. Anyways.
Like, I am just munching on Vicodin like candy over here. Like, damn, that's good Vic. So,
Riding your bike to school? Never mind. Continuing.
trying at least. It doesn't make a good bicycle.
I see what you did there. Okay.
So if you would continue on with chapter 4.
Oh, yeah. Right, so what we have in Chapter 4 is they're giving you a little bit more exposition about the Lucas family right down the lane, one of whom is basically BFFs with Liz. And it's just like, oh my god, we've actually found somebody else who's mildly intelligent. Unfortunately, they spend the greater portion of the chapter basically getting wet over the idea of Bingley still, except for Elizabeth, who is being a hilariously snarky bitch and is just telling off her sisters and this guy in one fell stroke of the penis. Now, for instance, we have this wonderful little bit about most of the way down the first page. So, he could not help seeing that you were about 5 times as pretty as every other woman in the room, no thanks to his gallantry for that. Well, he certainly is very agreeable, and I give you leave to like him. You have liked many a stupider person, and this is talking to her beautiful sister Jane about Mr. Bingley.
I don't even know where the fuck you are.
Well, dude, it's like the third paragraph. Well, okay, it's the first actual big paragraph in the page.
Did not you, I did
Yeah,
for
one.
you. Okay. So I go again?
Alright, so he could not help seeing that you were about 5 times as pretty as every other woman in the room, and no thanks to his gallantry for that. Well, he certainly is very agreeable, and I give you leave to like him. You have liked many a stupider person.
That is retardamified.
Yeah. And so, of course, Jane, being an incredibly nice person, she's not actually a bitch. She's really annoying at times because she tries to think of the best of everyone, and we all hate that person because we're jealous of their inherent naivete and wishing that we could be so awesome to the rest of these people. But then we're capable of things in life like success, so it kind of balances out.
I like to think that Jane is retarded, you know?
Probably not.
Like, as I've said in the last video, you know how I said that she was retarded?
Uh-huh.
Well, think of it like this.
Okay.
At some point, you'd think that Mr. and Mrs. Bennet might have been, you know, a little ticked off to the fact that you might have something wrong whenever you can raise one of your daughters just as successfully as you would, in the exact same way as you would raise a stalk of corn.
Well, that's kind of fucked up. I mean, they probably didn't legitimately feed her real bullshit. I mean, it was just Mrs. Bennet's speech, which is probably worse. Never mind.
So, yeah, they did. That's
Yeah.
exactly what they did.
Never mind. No, they waited for her to grow tall, and then they're going to be cutting her to sell,
They
I
just
guess.
shucked
Or
her.
kind of the metaphor kind of loses something, but most of it's real.
I'm calling her a vegetable.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
that's
it's not
correct.
that she's so retarded that she's, like, ditzy and shit.
Yeah.
It's that she's probably confined to a wheelchair, but it's never actually brought up.
The tragedy is that she's included in this book while actually being an inherently likable person. Like, all of these characters individually would be very nice and well-defined in their own field, like if each one was granted a novel inside of a more exciting medium. But the problem is, this is the British fucking middle class, circa 18-something or other. And they're just not... No. God, no.
Like, we're going to abscond right from that.
Pretty much. Like, just get the fuck out. Now, it goes on to mention that Bingley has a ridiculous amount of money, and purchased some property in a place called Netherfield, which sadly is nowhere near as cool as it sounds. And, well, actually, no, it kind of like puts you in mind of one's nethers, I guess, because they're English. So I guess he moved to Crotchland.
Well, if it's Netherfield, with how the English actually use that word properly, that could either mean it's the most despondent place, which could actually be, appropriate for Mr. Darcy, per se.
Yeah.
Or they could be, Cockney, and they could actually mean they're privates.
Yeah. And either way, it still kind of fits with the ironic statements of the book, because if he's moved to bullshit land, then it's somewhere that it's like, oh, well, this is a very nice and otherwise incredibly pleasant suitor who everybody else is pretty much completely gaga over. And then he just moved to the worst place because he's an idiot. Haha, that's funny. Alternately, if he moved to Crotchland, it could be kind of a metaphor for that he is just hip deep in pussy. Like, he's probably telling all of them, hey, first one that puts out gets the marriage.
Yeah.
And then he has, like, 7 ladies over at once and just watches them fight to the death. That's what I'd do.
No, you don't. You have nothing to offer the ladies.
Well, that one time there was the bake sale, they didn't know that they were going to be fighting to the death when they were invited to brownies.
Oh.
Yeah.
What did you put in those brownies anyway to get them to fight to the death?
Oh, I didn't. I just locked all the doors and threw in a single knife. Just kind of escalated from there, actually. I didn't have to give any instructions, which was weird.
Kind of sad, actually.
Yeah, the last 2 devolved into making out, which was the freakiest part, and then there was just kind of a scream, and then one of them was on the ground dead, bisected neatly, vertically in half, and the other one was already outside. I'm pretty sure there was something more than whatever I was doing involved. Not gonna question it. Just kind of moved on.
Did any of them actually know each other prior?
I never asked, and because they condemned the place pretty quickly after, I never had a chance to find out.
Well, where did you get them all from?
Oh, it was just like a random thing off the street.
Did you, Well, it kind of depends which part of town you were in, if it was all from the same place, because, say, for instance, that it was, near a school, as school was getting out, they might have gone to school together. So...
I think it was near a mall somewhere.
That they'll flock to there in groups.
Oh, Jesus. Alright, so there was probably, a boy or something involved. Or maybe there was another girl, I don't know. But
basically, anything having to do with anything that could ever be argued over. So basically that can pretty much happen whenever you put any group of girls in a room together, I guess.
Yeah. So I guess, throwing in the single knife, maybe they were just arguing over who got to keep it.
Maybe. I don't know. Like who eventually won? What was, anything special about this one, or what?
The shortest one, actually. Didn't look like she'd be able to take anybody else.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it wasn't even, looking like the innocent one. That one died first.
Oh, yeah.
Turns out, you can't always judge a book by its cover. Fucking good that time.
Yeah. Oh, look at how shy she is. She's going to kill her. Oh, never mind. She's dead.
Yeah, pretty much.
Her neck is everywhere.
Oh, that's a terrible description.
It's just her neck is in multiple places.
Oh, God. Anywho. Moving on.
That could be any part of her body if it were not for the fact that that's the only thing that's missing off of her.
Yeah. But so what ended up happening was they're talking a little bit more about the rest of the thing with Bigley, and they're like, why the hell is he friends with that Darcy asshole anyway? And so they kind of go into their relationship a little bit. And the end game of that situation is we find out that Darcy is pretty cool to the people he likes. He's the one jerk-ass member of the group that everyone's okay with hanging out with. But you have to be able to get to know him first, which is kind of a pain because he's the jerk-ass.
Dick Cockingston, I think, would be his real name.
Well, it's already Darcy. I mean, you can't get that much worse.
Look at how goddamn poncy I am. I'm the ponciest ponce on this ponce of the Poncy Pond.
Seriously, son of a bitch was emasculated just by being born. Anyways.
Oh my god.
Which is kind of crazy, because that is the one time in life you can literally be hip deep in veg. Anyways.
It's kind of weird. I just realized that, you can be born being something, which is weird.
Yeah.
You know, people can't even be like a new thing anymore. Like I had a stepfather once, right?
Uh-huh.
And apparently he was born in such a way that upon coming out of the vagina, he was a sin.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's fantastic.
his birth was a sin.
I
So,
love
so he technically sinned, and his mom sinned, and basically everything that had to do with the coitus and the gestation and the birthing was all just one big merry sin. So
Do you think it's kind of like killing a really powerful enemy in a first-person shooter where it still only counts as 1 point? I like to think so.
possibly.
Yeah. Anyways, so the thing with Darcy is that basically they're all talking about him and Bingley for the whole chapter, and nothing else important is really done except for okay, so Darcy's kind of a cool dude to Bingley. That's why they hang out.
Yeah.
Chapter 5. And
Did you
then
say Semper Fi?
Chapter 5.
Oh, I thought you said Semper Fi. I was like, neither of them was in the army. Don't be a fucking idiot.
I'm pretty sure at some point they introduced a Colonial Marine, but not yet.
Well, yeah, but he's not important at all yet, and I forgot his name.
You know, so have I.
Fuck that guy.
Pretty much.
We'll
Except-
figure him out later.
Yeah. Anywho. Whoops. Disregard, if anyone's actually seriously paying attention, disregard what I said at the beginning of the previous chapter. Chapter 5 is where we start getting more of the information about the Lucases. Like, they're just kind of present in a number of the chapters. It's just sort of there. But in this one, yeah. She's the one who's actually, like, one of the Lucas children is Elizabeth's friend, and that's kind of a big deal later on in the story because they go on double dates and shit later because you're not allowed to have just going out with other people, so you had to bring a chaperone, which was kind of weird because the entire point was to make babies as immediately as possible.
Yeah, it's basically like the only thing separating, the man and the woman in this time, instead of, feelings and, all this foreplay and shit, was basically your cloth and their cloth.
That's why they had you wear so many coats, actually. That's why there was, like, the waistcoat and the suit jacket and the petticoat and all that other bullshit. They were assuming that if you were left alone in the same room as a member of the opposite sex for 5 minutes, you would be attempting to have the opposite sex.
Yeah.
Genital contact all up in this.
I will go ahead and state right now that if they had pants back then, with their easy access buttons and zippers, I really doubt that, any girl in the entire tri-state area, had they tri-states then, which they did not, would have been extremely pregnant.
Yeah. Which kind of says something about just how horny the era was. Like, everyone thinks about it as classical sensibilities. No, these people were so incredibly, like... I'm trying to think of a word for obsessed that has dick shoehorned somewhere in there. Alright, we'll just assume one has been made up. But they were just so incredibly penis obsessed that they weren't allowed to be in the same room as each other without the assumption that sex was going to happen through the 86 layers of clothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was basically condom. If they didn't want to have a child, but at that point, since the point was to actually have babies, that rarely happened, and they actually had to get through 83 layers of clothing.
To be fair, everything worked fairly well for a while, except for the royal family. They just had sex with each other instead, and so,
And so we had a bunch of Lucy's.
Yeah. Moving right along.
I'm going to hell.
Yeah, so this is that lovely kind of conversation for basically the rest of this chapter between the various members of the Lucas family and the Bennett family, all females, where they're sitting there and they're absolutely focusing on this Darcy dude, and they're like, he was such an asshole. But the entire time, as they're saying terrible things about him, it's like they're warming up to him. Like everyone's had one of those conversations.
Yeah.
We're just like, man, that guy's such an asshole. I know, wasn't he a dick? Yeah, but that was pretty funny though, wasn't it? I know, right?
Like, yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah. And then, like, by the end of it, you're just kind of cool with him. And then these people did that, which is when they started to take me as an enemy when they forgave Darcy. Good.
So, this chapter is entirely about, Darsois. Chat about him. Do other stuff, then we can just move on.
But
here's a little part that I like to read. If I were as rich as Mr. Darcy, cried a young Lucas, who came with his sisters, I should not care how proud I was. I would keep a pack of foxhounds and drink a bottle of wine every day. Now you have to imagine in this, just in this part, if you just read this out of context, you could assume that they were having an orgy before.
yeah,
And he was just coming with them.
yeah.
Because it was funny.
To be fair, it's better to read this with the assumption that between every chapter there was in fact an orgy with all the characters who were talking at any given time.
Yeah, but you just gotta imagine them in their underwear. That's basically it.
Pretty much.
That's all. That's the end. That's the story.
Yeah. And so yeah, they're talking about how ridiculously rich he is, and how. Yeah. And then this is Bennett to cap the chapter is just like, and I would keep you from drinking and doing all that other stuff, which was basically the only reprieve money would actually buy you. So more or less, she's simultaneously a baby factory and a fountain of suicide.
That is the worst thing ever.
I know. Anyways, moving on to chapter 6.
Oh my God, she's. So she likes to have children, but she does not like to drink.
Yeah, she takes away everything that makes life worth living after pumping out as much life as she possibly could.
Wow.
Yep. Like she lists earlier in the book, her duty is to her daughters, and then being able to see them taken care of is life's own reward. It's not boning or any of that other stuff that makes the children. Like, that's not worth it, apparently.
Apparently, for your daughters to be happy, they have to be, they have to have a baby in them. God, I hate her so much.
Yeah, and so this is such a wonderfully done book that all of the girls are either airheads or completely
Jaded.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Lizzie.
Yeah. So like all the ones who are sitting there and like they're not necessarily real big on the whole baby factory concept, they still understand that they need to get married off to somebody who's rich as hell or they're gonna have a terrible life.
Yeah. Like the whole baby thing is kind of creepy in this book. Like,
yeah, so they're still campaigning for that.
Yeah, Mrs. Bennett is like, how many children has she had? 6?
5?
5?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's just like another 3 more away from becoming a brood mother.
I
don't know what the fuck she's gonna do with her life. Like, imagine having a brood mother who had a bunch of brood mothers who had a bunch of brood mothers. What the fuck?
Yeah. That's pretty terrible.
And then you have this terrible family line of nothing but baby factories.
Oh god, why would you say that? Oh, that's a phrase now. Okay. Okay.
Nothing but baby factories. It's like an assembly line, oh my god. Oh, god, I'm going to hell.
So, sadly, the next chapter starts off with a mention of everybody from between the various families of the rich people and the people who are trying to marry off their daughters to rich people. Yeah. So this next part is talking about how the families are all meeting each other, and nobody was particularly fond of anyone else. Like, it was just kind of one great big lukewarm glare fest.
Awkward party, yay.
Much. And so everyone was
like
polite.
Like everyone was kind of glaring at each other a little bit, but no eye contact was actually made.
It was kind of like how whenever you're listening to two people who really don't like each other talk, and like hearing oh hey Betty, how's it going? And you can just kind of subconsciously hear the word bitch being inserted in the subtext, and it's like, oh hi Frank, how's it going, you asshole?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Like, even though that me and Alex hate each other, we're not, we're not passive about it.
all of the subtext we insert actually has to do with fruit and fruit ninjas.
Too much.
Yeah, like the, banana daiquiri, chop, chop, chop. That's about it.
Watermelon tequila.
Chop, chop, chop.
Haya shinderunda.
That's not real Japanese.
Chop 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 is also not Japanese.
Well, no, but I mean, never mind. Whatever.
I'm just saying. It sounds samurai-ish.
Yeah, fair enough. As far as I can tell, most of the language was actually a number of people trying to randomly grunt out syllables just to see what could stick together well.
Hai shinderunda. Watermelon tequila.
And then chop, chop, chop. Now.
And then chop chop chop.
And boom goes the dynamite. Now.
I was thinking about that today.
I kind of, on one hand, I hope it never ever makes a comeback because it was one of the most painful videos ever.
I thought it was fucking great.
But at the same time, it's kind of funny.
You know what I want him to do? Narrate the entire Super Bowl.
Oh my god, he should do porn now.
Oh, that would be so awesome.
And boom goes the dynamite.
And boom goes the dynamite.
Oh god, he's still stuttering and unsure of himself the entire time.
He's been like this since 2005.
Oh god, it's porn for Mormons. Anyways,
I don't think you mean Mormons.
yes.
No.
Yep.
We're talking about Amish.
Oh. No, I actually imagine the Amish are incredibly good at what they do because they have to successfully breed animals.
No, I mean, like, the only reason that they're good at breeding animals is because they're so jaded that they can, like, wrap their fingers around a fat horse ween and just, like, pump that shit till it's, ready for the mare. Then the stallion's like, I'm ready, bitch! Give me that pussy! And it's like, okay. Like, well, the only reason that the Amish are successful with that is because they're jaded.
Wow.
They don't give a fuck. Fuck your technology. I'm jacking off a horse.
Which, right now,
and I'm feeling nothing.
I'm kind of wondering, like, so the Amish have this thing where when they're teenagers, they're allowed to run around and do the whole living life before they die thing, and then they come back to Amish land, right?
Yeah.
So they have that thing with their teenagers, and they're allowed to have all the technology, and basically it's a free pass where nothing you do from this period to this period is actually going to send you to hell. And I like to imagine one of them is watching our video right now, and they're just laughing their ass off.
Oh my god, Amish!
Yeah. Actually, no, I like to imagine they're watching the previous one, and so, like, as we're making these jokes right now, that's when they're laughing.
Ha! That would be kind of funny, except that I haven't uploaded the other one yet.
God damn it, get on that now.
It'll take like 2 hours to upload.
Yeah. So as far as Chapter 6 goes, what we have is Darcy has come back, and so they're talking to each other, and it's just like, oh, god damn it, we have to actually... We have to actually interact with each other as human beings, which is where the entire system just starts falling apart.
I had an idea.
Uh-oh.
You should just show the video to your teacher.
No.
Do it.
Never.
Do it.
Oh my god, no.
Yeah. Actually, I have an idea. After everything is said and done and you have passed her class and you will never be in her class again, then show her.
Flash drive. All the videos. Saved. Ready to go. Played one after another.
You just have this playing in a class, like on like the projector. It's like, what the fuck is this?
Oh, that would be glorious. Which I really hope that the next book is available on PDF as well, because this is actually working incredibly well for what I need to keep track of.
Good. Like any help that I'm actually submitting to you is entirely, coincidental.
Pretty much. And any information that anyone's gleaning from this, they're missing the point. So...
Like, you can use this as a reference because we're actually saying some important things, but we're like touching base.
No. Like, most of the shit, we're just skimming.
Yeah.
So, like, the next set of videos, moving on from now, I'll probably read it first so that at least one of us has any goddamn idea what's going on, because I thought he was more familiar with it and he thought I was more familiar with it. So this is going to be better in the future. But for now, Chapter 6, pretty much just randomly skimmed. And as far as I can tell, So Darcy shows back up. The families are talking to each other, and these are the same people that were having the awkward glare fest beforehand.
But no eye contact was made.
Yeah, and so Darcy's talking to people, and then
And
basically
they're talking back because all that he's talking about is how he used to be in charge of a hamster whenever, like, in his class whenever he was like 12, except like as soon as the hamster was in his care, it died. That's the story he's telling everyone. So no one's really talking back. It's kind of awkward.
Yeah.
Sorry, do go on.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that's not actually what happens. That's not how this goes.
Shut up.
And so he was never in a class because England didn't really have the school thing happening.
And they didn't really have class either, so.
Yeah.
That was a burn, by the way.
Yeah. I see what you did there. Yes. And so for the most part, it's just all the same party people showing up, and they're talking again. It's just a low-key party, and they're talking to each other.
It's like taking everybody from the ball, putting them in the same room, except you're just not playing music.
Yeah.
Haha! You're welcome. Fuck you.
Yeah, it's kind of horrible. And then so Darcy and Elizabeth talk a little bit more, and everybody has a little bit more character development with each other. And tragically enough, everyone is starting to warm up to Darcy even more.
Wow, he's not as much as a dick as we thought. Yes, he is! Turn back!
So that's pretty much chapters 4 through 6 in a nutshell.
You're welcome!
Yeah.
Fuck you!
Wow.
Thank you for watching!
But yeah, and we can't forget that Miss Elizabeth Bennet is now a thing where Darcy is kind of doing his creepy-ass fixation on her, which continues for the rest of the story. We have officially achieved stalker status. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for tonight.